All right. So now the reflection I'd like to read to open is from the Creation Justice Ministries, which Jen and I, and probably some of you also receive regular emails, but they are celebrating their season of creation and justice and inviting guest speakers to submit not speeches, but meditations and reflections. So the one that came to us this week was from Dr. Ellen Davis, who's a professor of Bible and practical theology at Duke Divinity School. And she is writing a reflection on Psalm 85. And these are her introductory words. It says, "This is a psalm, an ancient poem prayer for a moment of profound threat, such as the one in which I write. At this moment," and she wrote back when Hurricane Ida was active, "Hurricane Ida is landing in Louisiana, the second storm in a year to make modern history in that state with its brutality. And now we have a third one coming through. Psalm 85 speaks to this immediate situation and likewise to the long-term global tragedy of which Ida is yet another piece of unwelcome evidence. Our land, God's earth, your land, refers to both, is in desperate need of God's restorative work. We, God's people, must hear and enact God's word of shalom, which is not peace in any simple sense, but rather a comprehensive condition of well-being, one that binds together people, land, and God in a covenanted unity." And this psalm is not very long, so I would like to read it to you. "You favored Lord, your land, you turned the fortunes of Jacob. You forgave the crimes of your people, covered all their sin. You gathered in all your wrath, made restoration from your hot fury. Turn, O God of our salvation, and break through your indignation at us. Will you forever rage at us, draw out your anger generation after generation? Will you not give us life again, that your people may rejoice in you? Show us, O Lord, your covenant loyalty, and give us your salvation. I must listen. What would God the Lord speak? He would speak shalom to his people and to those true to him. So may they not turn back to stupidity. Yes, his salvation is near to those who fear him, that glory may dwell in our land. Covenant loyalty and truth meet, righteousness and shalom kiss. Truth sprouts from the earth and righteousness peers from the sky. Indeed, the Lord will give what is good, and our land will give its yield. Righteousness will go before him, that he may set his steps on the path." So I thank you all for being here today to do God's work and to accept his shalom and help to protect our land, so graciously given. And Phyllis, I'd like to turn it over to you. Would you mind doing an introduction for Rex? And maybe a little bit about our purpose in inviting him here?
I'm glad to. By the way, yes, my audio is sort of going in and out. It's mostly I'm connected. But at any rate, I'm going to keep it short because the time needs to go to Rex for his presentation and Q&A. I'm Phyllis. I'm relatively new to your committee, and I was encouraged by your leadership to reach out to an already very viable relationship with Environment Colorado, and with the intent that we might forge a relationship here. So I have had the privilege of meeting with Rex in person twice in his new position as CEO of Environment Colorado. But he brings actually a 20-year history of professional work and commitment in this area. So with that, Rex, thank you so much for making the time. We are so happy you're with us. And so we greet you and we welcome however you can update us and include us for a very viable connection.
Thank you, Phyllis, and thank you for having me, guys. So what I'd like to do is give you guys a little bit of background about Environment Colorado and what we do, and then lay out a victory that we have, and I can kind of explain a campaign that we ran so that you kind of get an idea of what we do, and then talk some more about some renewable energy stuff that we're working on for Colorado and then also around the nation. And then hopefully leave some time for a Q&A, but I know you guys have a busy agenda here. So just keep me in track because I can talk. So I want to make sure that I stay on time. So Environment Colorado is a group that our mission is to protect our air, our water, and the places that we love, our natural resources. We work on the national, state, and local levels with people in any background and political ideology. Environmental issues are not inherently political. Everyone needs clean water, needs clean air, and we're a research and science-based organization, and we pick aggressive goals and we grind until we actually win on them. What I'd like to do is kind of share, we're not just here in Colorado. So here in Colorado, it's Environment Colorado. We have a national affiliation, Environment America. And then in others, 29 states, we have affiliates. So as an example, in New Mexico, it's Environment New Mexico. In Texas, it's Environment Texas. And so forth. And we have one in California, on the East Coast, and up and down the East Coast and West Coast. So just so you can kind of keep that in mind, but we work in our state. So here I'm working in obviously in Colorado, and that's my main objective. But our kind of goal is that we're kind of like the laboratories of democracy. When we work on an issue, we want to be able to build on that momentum at the local level. And if it's something, that we passed here in Colorado, then if we can get enough states to pass that, whatever issue is, if it's clean energy, then we want to work on it on the national level as well. It works even slower at the national level, as you guys probably know. But as an example, I would like to tell you a little bit about a victory that we just had. We worked on getting plastics, one-time use plastics, banned here in Colorado. And how we started that campaign is pretty typical, is being able to make sure that when we identify a problem, we come up with a solution. We're a headwater state. Everything starts, the water is coming down the mountains, through the streams, into the rivers, and it continues, not just through Colorado, but through other states to the oceans. And right now we have a island of plastic floating out in the middle of the Pacific Ocean, 2 times the size of Texas. That is a major issue. So we need to stop producing these plastics and putting them into our environment. And in Colorado, we decided, hey, let's get single-use plastics that are, as an example, when you go to your grocery store and you purchase groceries and you come out with 10, 15 bags for the weekly, grocery store run. We want to not, why are we carrying out in these plastic bags that are not recyclable? Or are very rarely recycled. And plastic, styrofoam cups, when we have go into the gas station or we go into the convenience store and purchase a cup of coffee or something, why are we purchasing these in products that cannot be reused or recycled? So we identified some products that were detrimental to the environment. These things cannot be decomposed in the environment. They last over 500 years, if not forever, which we're recognizing. So that is generation after generation after generation of piling up of trash that cannot be disposed of. And we went out and talked to people in the neighborhoods. We went door to door talking to our folks out in the neighborhoods, asking them, is this something that you would support? And while we were out there, we were thinking ahead. We wanted to be able to educate the general public. We asked them, hey, do you have plastic bags that are just sitting in your kitchen that we can collect? We want to use this as a prop for our press conference. And as we went out to the neighborhoods all over Colorado, we collected these, and then we had a big pile of plastics behind us when we did our big press conference. We went to the State House. We drafted a bill to ban single-use plastics in the styrofoams, and the effect that this is going to have is 4.5 million bags per day are used in Colorado, and then 1.5 million styrofoam cups. So that was going to be a huge, solving a huge problem of all these plastics and styrofoam going into the environment. So we collected all this and we said, hey, let's do a press conference to get some more, publicity and education through the newspapers, TVs, and radio. And we had 50 people show up. We had all these plastic bags. We had our legislators that were sponsoring the bill at the Capitol, and the event went off really well. And we were able to get media coverage to educate the general public about this and our legislators. And then what we did is we did a lobby day at the Capitol. We did 2 lobby days. And we invited our members and concerned citizens, but the one that was really influential with the legislators was the next generation of people that are going to be subjected to this problem if we don't solve it, is the kids. So we organized elementary schools, K through all the way up to high school, to do a virtual, because it was during the pandemic. So we did a virtual lobby day. Had them matched up with their representatives and had them lobbying their representatives. And that went really well with the legislators, because these are the young folks, the young kids that are going to be taking over, so to speak. And they are very passionate about cleaning up the environment. And we were able to pass that bill into law. The governor signed it in June. And we had a signing ceremony with the governor, and we're able to pass that law. And that is a typical kind of campaign that we run. It doesn't happen overnight. There's always opposition. The plastic industry was very against this, and that's just a part of it. But by going out there and talking, educating people about it, talking to our elected officials, getting coalition members involved, and building that support, we're able to eventually win. People ask me, well, so what are we going to do next? What's the next big thing on this issue? Because we can't just keep banning individual products. So we said, hey, let's talk about flipping this on its head and getting the producers to be responsible for what they're actually putting out into the environment. And having it be, if they're going to send us something, so an example, Amazon, if they're going to send us a package, all that pre-packaging that goes around the product, have it be recyclable or reusable. And by having them be responsible for what they're putting into the environment, that we can make sure that it's reusable and recyclable. So we're working on that piece right now, working with the same coalition that we were working with the plastics, to devise come up with a bill for this coming legislature to continue this battle, and be able to have an influence on the producers. This is happening in other countries. Other states are working on this as well. Some of my colleagues in other states. Another example of this, so you guys can kind of get your head around it, potentially, is here in the United States, if you go and buy a simple product like toothpaste, I don't know what you guys visualize. I visualize the toothpaste that's in the box and I go get it. Why do we need the box? We just need the tube of toothpaste, right? And that's exactly how some of the European countries, when you go buy a tube of toothpaste, you buy the tube, you don't buy it coming in a box. So getting the industry to actually be smarter about what products, how they're packaging the products, and making it less impact on what's going, being shipped out to the stores for us to be able to purchase as consumers. So kind of flipping this to the producers and making them be more responsible. So that is one of our big campaigns that we're working on. Something that we have worked on, and I know it's you guys have been talking about it in your committees, is about energy. Phyllis gave me a little bit of an introduction there. I've been working on energy since 2000. And this has been dear to my heart for a long time. We got a bill that was introduced in the state legislature back in 2001, when everything was being produced by oil, gas, and coal. That's how we were producing our energy. And we had an idea to be able to produce energy with renewables, mainly wind and solar. And we introduced a bill back then to produce energy through wind and solar, have Xcel Energy have about 10% of our energy come from renewables. And that has escalated over the years. And we're at a point of being able to have at least 50% of our energy being produced by renewables. And the goal is by 2035 to be 80%. And we would like to get to 100% by 2050. And that also includes electrifying our automobiles and moving away from fossil fuels for how we're actually getting around with trucks and buses and cars, and doing incentives of being able to build out the grid with being able to recharge our automobiles. And we had a success on a campaign where we worked on getting recharging stations in our state parks, because people have this scare that they can go out for X amount of miles with their electric cars, but then they don't have enough places to actually recharge them. They may have a recharging station at home, somewhere in a neighborhood, but the state parks and the national parks don't have a lot of recharging stations. So we worked on a bill to get, we called it Recharge Where You Recharge, getting recharging stations in state parks. That bill passed as well, and we were able to, we're hopefully going to be doing the blue ribbon cutting with the governor and our coalition members. And I have a call into Phyllis is going to ask, when is that? But we haven't, they haven't set the date on that. It's supposed to be in September. And I just put a call into the governor's office to ask when we're going to be doing that celebration. But on that note, we want to continue to build out more, and that's in the infrastructure bill that you guys may have heard about it on the national level, being able to have money set aside to be able to get more recharging stations throughout the country, not just in our neighborhoods, but in our national parks. If you think about the highway infrastructure, when we built that out, gas stations popped up everywhere, and at every gas station, 10 to 20 pumps to be able to fill your car. There shouldn't just be one recharging station. There should be multiple recharging stations for electric cars to be able to recharge as well. So that's kind of our vision for that. So I know that's a lot. I'm going to take a little bit of time to pause. I know there's probably some questions and then different things that I may not have covered.
Go ahead, Bill.
Okay. Hello, Rex.
Hey.
Thank you for your brief summary. That's great. Well, I'm ignorant of your organization. So how many volunteers do you have?
Oh, we have, let me see here, about 14,000 members of our organization. People come in and volunteer. We're constantly building our coalition. So I can't give you an exact number on volunteers, but we're constantly having volunteers working on the various campaigns.
Great. Where does your money come from to support your organization?
That's a great question. We have individuals. So when we go out and canvass in the neighborhoods, we raise money, ask people to become members of the organization. We also do grants where we ask grantors that are interested in the various issues that we work on to support our organization as well. So that's the basis of our funding for our organization.
Do you have a chapter in Boulder?
We have members in Boulder, but it's not like an office in Boulder. Our main office is in Denver.
Okay.
And one thing that we do is we work also with students on the college campuses and help organize students that care about these issues, and they volunteer and do internships with us, and been talking with Phyllis about an internship program over at DU as well. So we have students that work with us as well.
Great. And the specifics of your banning plastic bags? Total ban? If so, starting when?
Good question, Bill. So you've probably heard, if you're in Denver, then there is a fee that goes on plastic bags now. That was passed by the city council, and some of the other cities around Colorado have passed that. And if you want to use the plastic bags, there's a 10-cent fee. If you bring in your recyclable bags, then there is nothing to carry your bags out. But the ban that we did that will be statewide goes into effect in 2024. The industry argues that they need some time to acclimate to make this happen. So 2024, we will not be having any more plastic bags in Colorado, nor the styrofoam cups that I was talking about.
Thank you.
Yes.
So this is another Boulder Church representative.
Yeah.
We're asking these kind of questions because we're trying to figure out exactly who to partner with. You know, it's hard to. Anyway, how big is your staff and how big is your budget?
So we have a staff of because we have people working on conservation issues as well. So we have a staff here in Colorado of 4 people, and then we have the national organization as well that we all chip into to be able to have representation at the national level as well. You know, it just depends. You know, our budget depends on how many people that we have on staff. I'm looking to hire some more folks. I'm trying to raise some money around the energy issue to be able to have full-time staff member on that as well. So every year it fluctuates depending on what's going on. And the COVID, we took kind of a hit, having to work from home. We lost some people, and we are working to rebuild some of our programs.
Great, you're getting a lot done. So.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. And I didn't mention, which is part of our staff as well, is we have a full-time canvas operation. That is our operation to go out door to door to raise money for our membership as well. And we have a full-time staff of 4 people on that as well.
Oh, okay. Thanks.
Mm-hmm.
Mm.
Rex or Pam and Jan, before Rex's time takes on wings, could we have a brief conversation about some concrete ways that we might consider a partnership together?
Yes, I'd like to hear how could the faith community support the legislation and the initiatives that you are promoting?
That's a great question. So when we are gearing up for, it doesn't have to be just during the legislative session. I'm happy to brief, your delegation, your folks, whatever you want to do, being able to get more people involved if you guys want to do that. But the main thing is when we're doing something at the legislature, if people want to come in and testify, they want to lobby their representatives, we do lobby days. If you want to do letters to the editor, you want to sign on to what do you call it, opinion pieces to get more out into the public for press events. When we do press conferences, have people come to press events. Signing petitions. We do river cleanups. We have a river cleanup coming up on Sunday, September 20, I think it's 25th. Is that correct? Let me just look at my calendar real quick.
The
26th. The
yeah,
26th.
the Saturday. Okay.
Yeah. So Sunday the 26th. So I know you guys do church and stuff, so that may not work out for you. But we partnered up with Patagonia over near REI in downtown. We have people that come out and do a river cleanup. So there's many of opportunities that, and then just signing on to a campaign, which I would be able to send you guys out. Here's a sign-on coalition letter for you guys to discuss if it's something you want to do. When we have something that is coming up that we need to influence, some of the delegation, some of our representatives. It's always a flow back and forth, and I'm happy to work with you guys. I love that the faith-based communities are getting involved in environmental issues. I read, what you guys, it makes sense to me. We need to protect the earth to be able to continue doing, living and existing, and from God's perspective of being able to make sure that we're moving forward in a sustainable way to protect for the next generation. So I love that you guys are thinking about getting involved with environmental organizations, and how do we individually help be able to have an impact on a local or a statewide initiative is exactly what we do. So I hope I addressed a little bit of what you guys were asking, and happy to get into more specifics on different things that we could ask you guys to get involved with.
Very helpful. Would you be able to supply us with sort of a template of language that we might use if we were to write letters to the editor, or if we were to write to our congressperson, something that would be consistent with what you're trying. I think that's people's biggest hesitancy in getting involved is, I don't know what to say.
Yeah. No, absolutely. We can do a template, a sample that you would put your, spice it up with, whatever it is, but give you an idea. Here's the problem that we're facing. This is what we're asking as the solution. Please, vote for this, or, like the big thing that's in Congress right now is the reconciliation bill and the infrastructure bill. To be able to have funding to go towards some of these environmental programs, expanding the electric vehicles, electric buses, school buses, getting lead out of the pipes for our infrastructure. It's mainly for the schools as well. There's a lot of stuff that we could, send you as templates to be able to send that stuff in. Absolutely.
Great. Sounds good. Well, I am so grateful for all that you did to push through the plastics ban. I just think that's great that Colorado's one of 5 states that have a ban? That's pretty low.
One of 7. We're the first state that is landlocked that passed this legislation. They were blown away that we were able to pass it, because mainly the coastal states are very, very concerned about this because that plastic ending up into the oceans. But here we were able to push it through.
Awesome. Awesome. I do a little bit with Audubon in the schools, and we talk about how unique Colorado is because we have the Continental Divide, and we do a little demonstration about our watershed and how the water flows. It doesn't just stay here in Colorado. It goes all the way out to the Atlantic and the Pacific. And in the meantime, it's picking up, maybe not big plastic bags, but these little tiny particles that get out there.
Absolutely.
So we have an effect even though we're landlocked. So good. Yes, Bill.
Rex, there are so many environmental organizations, and we and the First Plymouth Church are trying to figure out which ones we should really get involved in. How do you see yourself fitting into the overall picture? Like, is there an umbrella organization over all of you?
So with us, we work with the other environmental groups. We work with Sierra Club, in coalitions, Sierra Group, Sierra Club, Conservation Colorado, Audubon, any of the other, depending on the issues, we will work with whichever environmental group it is. The cool thing that I think is really cool about our organization is that we are constantly going out there and talking to not only our members, but new people. When we go out into the neighborhood and ask people to become members of our organization, we're not just seeing it as a donation, we're seeing it as an educational event as well. People get involved at the level that they can. And if that's, signing a petition, if that's, donating, if that's coming to an event, whatever it may be, we are always organizing out in the communities to continue building support. And that's, one of the unique things about our organization. But we're always looking to work with the environmental groups. We're not, on this issue, we have to, we have a lot of the same goals of being able to, clean up whatever the particular issue is that we're working on. And we want to continue working together to, get to that same end result.
Thank you.
Can I ask one? I feel like we're dominating the conversation, but I'm pretty sure what Pam read was about creation justice, and that's what the United Church of Christ is really focusing on. So keeping in mind, as they say, that the people who are affected first and worst by climate change are those who are in poor, disadvantaged, minority areas. Is that taken into consideration in the work that you're doing?
Yes, that is absolutely part of what we do. We think of it in the sense of the broad picture, using using energy as an example. We want to make sure that everybody can have clean, renewable energy that they're having come to their homes. If they live in an apartment complex, if they live in a multi-unit, if they live in a single family, if they live in a trailer park, it doesn't matter where you live. We want you to be able to receive good, clean energy. And that's through renewables versus the polluting. So most of the people that are living, that live close to a power plant are economically challenged. And we don't want them to have to breathe in that poor air quality and that pollution that's being produced by those power plants. So we're always thinking about the underserved and lower income communities to be able to work with them. But we're thinking of it in the sense of everybody. How do we solve this problem for everybody, including and not leaving out the underserved folks?
Thanks.
Absolutely.
Well, Rex, go ahead. Go ahead, Phyllis.
I'm going to unapologetically be a cheerleader for a moment here in terms of support of Environment Colorado. And that is, for those of you who know me, I've been in healthcare for decades. And one thing that I particularly appreciate about Environment Colorado is it moves beyond conserving the precious resources that we do have, that is for all of us. But I have been very impressed by their addressing the inextricable link between health of human beings and health of our environment. And for me, as a person of faith and a person committed to health care and illness care, it sort of drives everything I believe in a spiritual level, professional, emotional, and physical well-being. I have worked in Globeville, Commerce City, and some of you may or may not know that the AQI, the Air Quality Index, is unbelievably multifold worse than it is in other parts of our state or even other parts of our city. So the economic justice, the demographic and economic justice piece is also something that is being addressed. Thank you.
Okay, wonderful presentation, Rex. Thank you so much for spending time with us this afternoon. I have a feeling it's not going to be the last time we're going to be in touch. So it's great to hear from you.
I appreciate it.
And thank you, Phyllis, for bringing him to us. So,
Yes. Thank you, Rex.
I look forward to hopefully a continued relationship with you guys. Thank you for having me. And I know you guys got business that you need to attend, so I'll jump off now. Is that?
That's fine.
Okay.
That's fine.
All right.
Don't
Thank
need
you
to keep you. Okay.
Thank you for having me.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Okay, well, that was very helpful, I thought. It's good.
Excuse me, I just want to mention for anybody who's confused by this gray phone icon that keeps turning green and has a little phone number under it. This is Larry Strasser trying his dangdest to join our meeting, and he's unable to. And so the times that I'm not paying attention, I've been emailing and texting with Larry. He just doesn't, he's not able to get on, but that's his phone number that's trying to join the meeting. His computers, neither of his computers at home seem to be able to connect. And I think he's trying by phone too, and nothing's working. So I think it'll just keep.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Larry. Yes, hi, Larry.
Hi. When I was connected, I heard everything, but I held it on mute because I didn't know. I didn't want to interrupt, but you can hear me, so okay, I can hear you. You can't see me, I can't see you either. So, but anyway.
Okay,
Great,
welcome.
great.
We're glad to have you.
Yeah.
So the Zoom invitation always, in the email always includes like telephone numbers to call. So I just picked the first one. It was from Tacoma. I guess that's Washington. And then there's another passcode, and then there's the real passcode to the meeting. So you got to type in a bunch of numbers, but yeah, it actually works. First time I've ever used the phone numbers to get into a Zoom meeting, but I know other people do. So I thought, well, I'd just try that.
Well, and you're our Zoom guru, my goodness. Yeah.
Well, this is the first time my computers haven't been able to connect. I don't know what in the world's going on, but. And I was just on yesterday, and I've got a class to teach on Friday, so with Zoom, so I've got to figure this out. So
Okay, all right. Well, before we go on too much with our meeting, for those of you who are at First Plymouth, you may not have met Bill and Margot and Mark, who are from the First Congregational UCC in Boulder. And as I specified on the agenda, we were just going to mention that we had a Zoom meeting with them a couple of weeks ago. They are on the same path that we were on about a year ago, trying to become identify as a creation justice church with the UCC. And so we had some dialogue about that, but they also are doing some dynamite things, a small group of them up there. And so we just wanted to stay connected. And one of the things that they are doing is the same thing we're doing, is trying to find other organizations in the Denver area, Boulder area that we can connect to actually practice and live our pledge to be a creation justice church. So Mark and Margot and Bill, you're welcome to stay on with us as we have our meeting. Hopefully it won't take much longer than half an hour, 45 minutes, but let's stay in touch. Okay.
Great.
We're going to go. We're leaving tomorrow morning for a week and a half. So we have a few things to do.
Okay.
Thank you so much for including us. This was great.
All right.
We'll look
Good.
forward to collaborating in the future.
Yeah.
Sounds good. All right. Thank you.
And Pam, I will hang on if it's okay.
Absolutely. We'd love to have you with us.
Thank you.
Okay, so let's see. I have on the agenda I went to mission team, just a brief report. Christian Education is going to start up Adult Forum again in October. They don't have anybody signed up yet. So if we have anybody in mind, there's lots of openings for that. They're trying to figure out how to do it as a hybrid, because right now we only have one cart and it's not very good for large groups. So I think it has a lot to do with the technology. They're looking into getting another Zoom cart that will allow us to do hybrid meetings better. Let's see. Then the other thing is that there is a new task force that has been formed called the Leadership Task Force. And they are looking into a system for guiding the selection and maintaining of leadership. So this group will generate some expectations, some duties, and how to recruit new members to our various ministries and small groups. And on that task force are Rush and Rita and Heidi. And then the last thing, if you listen to or attended church and listened to the sermon on Sunday, you know that Jenny is leading us down a very an interesting path that is trying to be the church without being confined to the church building. And Liz, our moderator, is also of that thinking, and she left us with the thought to consider our call to action, doing more as a church, that Jesus has left the building. So just a thought to ponder on that. Okay. And let's see. Next on the agenda, there have been quite a few interesting webinars lately. Some from the UCC, some from IPL. I'll just comment on one that the First Universalist Church did. The church across the street from us, they did one on, see if I have the information I want here. Well, it's on community development investments. So the idea is divesting from big companies where you hope to get a huge profit through the stock market, and looking into companies that are going to help community development. Like they gave an example of investing in coffee farmers so that they could get paid immediately rather than waiting for the coffee to be sold to Starbucks and Starbucks to have to send the money back to the small coffee farmer. So it's the idea that there's a lot of companies that are in that middle tier. The small ones can't seem to get, can maybe get some of the micro investing, and the larger ones, of course, qualify for other types, but there's a lot of middle companies that are trying to do good for the community that are having trouble getting investing. So something I'm interested in learning more about, and we might want to do both individually and as a church. And Jan, you had a couple that you listened to.
So I'm just, Pam, would that be the kind of presentation that we would consider for a CE?
It might be. Yes, it might be. Good idea. The fellow over there is Tom Booth, and I'm sure he could either direct us to his resources or maybe come and be a resource for us. That's a good idea.
Maybe we could serve coffee from, this is a stretch. Maybe we could have coffee served, which would be from a coffee farmer, their own.
Yeah.
Yeah. You're on the right track. Yeah.
Fortunately, there's no coffee at church until COVID's over.
Oh,
Yeah,
oh.
Yeah.
no, that's too
Shucks.
bad.
So, Jen, do you want to share anything about the IPL legislative issues that you listened to this week? Or-
Sure. And I unfortunately I can't find the little notebook that I took notes in, but it's kind of, I can kind of do it in a nutshell. It was an Interfaith Power and Light national webinar with some of their coalition partners that are lobbying on behalf of both the infrastructure bill and the reconciliation bill. And I don't know if you're familiar enough with what's going on, but the infrastructure bill is a sort of seems to be some bipartisan consensus around rebuilding roads. I mean, Rex referenced it too. Repipe so that there isn't lead in our water pipes. There's some set asides for building out electronic vehicle recharging program throughout the country. And that's a $1.5 trillion bill that will possibly pass, except that it's been linked sort of to march hand in hand with the other big bill, the sort of Build Back Better bill, that's also called the reconciliation bill, that also has a lot of social net programs because people are part of building better back. So you may hear that it's really covers a lot of things, but it also has a large amount of money for three important parts of addressing our climate crisis. One of them is our program. Part of it includes programs to really encourage electric power utilities to lower their emissions by using more renewables. And there's sort of carrot and stick aspects to that. The second part of the sort of focus on climate change is called community resilience programs, because sorry, but we're not going to reduce our emissions out of this. We're there. And so a large chunk of this money goes to programs and ideas to, what are you going to do with housing in Louisiana, that keeps getting flooded and flooded and flooded? I mean, there's so many examples that I'm not going to list them. And then the third part is very focused in trying to address the equity issues, the ones that Margot raised. So they want to say that 40% of these programs would be dedicated to neighborhoods, areas that are already bearing the burden of our carbon economy. In terms of what we can do now, these bills are both, who knows? They're kind of on a fast track. In the House of Representatives, Nancy Pelosi has set a date of September 27th to try to deal with both bills, and she's linked both bills for passage in the House of Representatives. She might be able to pull that off. In the Senate, however, there's zero Republican support for the big bill, the important bill, the one that's really going to make more difference, the reconciliation bill, the reconciliation budget bill. So the call to action at the very end of this last week was write your Congress people, call your Congress people. I think most of us live in areas where we believe and assume that our Democratic senators and our Democratic Congress people are already on board. But what they were saying here is that phone call matters anyhow. And it says, or an email. And it's just simply, I'm a person of faith. These issues are very, very important to me. And I expect you to vote yes on the reconciliation bill, or I expect you to vote yes on the infrastructure bill, and say you're a person of faith. And so that was sort of the take home point from IPL. I don't know how many of you get their emails on a regular basis, but they're a pretty, they have become, the national organization has become really quite active and quite outreachy. They're doing a lot more, excuse me, now in terms of webinars, presentations, information kinds of things than they had been. I think maybe almost as a result of the pandemic. You know, it's like, oh, everybody's staying home. Everybody can do Zoom. Let's do more of these.
Yeah.
So if you, I can, and sometimes, I mean, any organization, I mean, I've been a paid dues member of Environment Colorado. A monthly sum comes out of my checking account every month. For decades, I've lived here for 35 years. Sometimes you just feel overwhelmed with emails. And sometimes I don't even read the Environment Colorado emails because they're like, oh my God, not another, the polar bears are collapsing and the glaciers are collapsing. And sometimes IPL feels the same way, but if you don't get them, you can sign on. And since they gave us $1,000 for our, for Larry's great submission, sometimes I think there's really good information. And the third one that I think Pam and I both subscribe to is another outfit called Creation Justice Ministries. It's ecumenical. It's not UCC or, well, and Interfaith Power and Light is ecumenical too, but Creation Justice Ministries has a nice, consistent faith connection. They'll never send you an email about call your congressman. Almost everything they do is connected to our sense of bettering our communities, our faith communities, our sense of the interconnectedness. So I'm happy to send out the links to all of these if you guys want to sign up on your own. Otherwise, I do wind up forwarding them sometimes. But, thank you. That's pretty much it.
Okay, great. Is any Bill? Yeah.
Jan, sorry, but did you say something about somebody gave somebody money for something?
Oh.
What was that?
No, I said I have been a member of Environment Colorado, the organization that Rex represents. I have been a member of that for almost the entire time I've lived here, and I just have them take, you know, a certain chunk out of my checking account every month.
But you may be referring to, we did win a cool congregation
that
award
yes.
last year. We applied. Yeah, we applied because we replaced all of the light bulbs in our church with LEDs. And so we couldn't provide the data because the church was closed. We couldn't do a before and after comparison, but we applied as a future planning issue, even though it was already accomplishment. And we won quite a bit of publicity. We won $1,000. Thanks to Larry, who you can't see his face, but he is tuned in here on the phone. He was wonderful about.
Well, it was a group effort. It was a group effort. So yeah.
Yeah.
I was just the guy that typed it up, but yeah.
Thank you.
Bill, IPL, Interfaith Power and Light, has a whole program called Cool Congregations.
Yes.
And so you can become a cool congregation by taking steps to improve your, primarily to improve your facility. So that's information I can forward to you too. Although, as I recall, you have solar panels or geothermal or something from some years ago, right?
We do. Geothermal. Yes. Yes. Okay. Thank you.
All right. Larry, could you give us an update on the Net Zero Task Force?
Okay, so yes. So we met on August 26th, and there were we met at church actually. We met in the Commons room, no Zoom. So that means we couldn't record it or anything because it was in the room. And we had let's see. So Jenny and Carol was there. And then we had 4 other people. So 6, 7 people altogether in the meeting, plus Linda Morrison, who's actually I think she's a CFO for Ambient Energy. And she's the one who did the work on the original church innovation. And when I mean the work, I mean she didn't do the physical stuff, but she figured out what sorts of things we should do to reduce our energy costs. But anyway, and that was a number of years ago. But anyway, she gave a talk on what ambient energy does to help, usually bigger companies than churches, but she works with churches too. And we talked a lot about a lot of things, like she talked about with this topic of commissioning and retro commissioning, which is energy use as designed, and then retro commissioning, trying to get it to that. And that's really what we're trying to do. We need to retro commission, which is it's the term that they use for net zero. Talking about sustainability and building performance. Has anybody ever heard of embodied carbon and then operational carbon? Embodied carbon is embodied carbon is the carbon dioxide, carbon emissions that would be put into the biosphere, our atmosphere, if we tore our church down. Okay, I mean, we have carbon dioxide locked up in our buildings and everything in the church itself, and that's called embodied carbon. And so, and eventually, right? I mean, the church will decay and will eventually be turned back to dust, right? And when it does, all that carbon will be released. But then there's operational carbon, which is the energy we use plus the refrigerants. So, and then we talked about offsets carbon. One thing that, and I think Bruce is on the meeting, right?
No, I haven't seen him. I haven't seen.
Oh, he's not in the meeting. Well, anyway, so Bruce and I were both relatively amazed at this. Okay, you probably heard about being able to offset your carbon usage. Have you heard about that?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
so that's where essentially you say, okay, we use up, pick a number, 100 kilotons. We release 100 kilotons of carbon dioxide. You can buy that back, if you will, right? By investing that amount of carbon, the money it would take to build a solar plant somewhere for that much. In other words, you would save that much carbon, and so that's that's really what Congress is talking about, like a carbon tax, so that everybody gets to net zero. It turns out that for our church, it would be far cheaper to do that rather than retrofit our church. So it's not very sexy, right? I mean, we're carbon neutral, but only because we give a solar farm enough money to save enough carbon dioxide for what we emit. But anyway, and it's like, I mean, it's like 1/5 the cost or something like that. So any event, but those are the kinds of things we talked about. Now, I was hoping that she would send me her presentation. She didn't have it on a travel drive or anything. I couldn't get it. But she was going to send it to me by email. But they're in this transition right now, Ambient Energy. They're merging with a bigger company or a smaller company. Anyway, there's some kind of company transition. And they've just been really busy. So, but I have pinged her a couple of times, and she promised me that she's going to send the church a proposal to say, this is, because, they don't work for free. They're actually a for-profit company. And just to see, in other words, she could do an energy audit and all that kind of stuff for us, but she's going to send a proposal, probably with a lot of options or something. But the thing I want mostly is a presentation that I can share, because it's a lot easier to talk to that, to the presentation, than my scribbly notes I took as she went through her talk. The other thing I want to talk about is that I am trying to reach out to the Universalists, the UU Church across the street, because I think they are net zero, not just, and not by paying it back. I mean, they're close to net zero, and they've invested a lot of money over there on a geothermal system, and so. But I'm trying to work with them, and maybe at our next meeting, our net zero meeting, we'll include a field trip over to their church to see what they have done.
Great.
And then we can come back to our church, and we would have or we could stay there. I don't know. But anyway, have a meeting to try to get all of the information we can from them, to glean that and gather it together and just say, well, this is how the UU Church did it, and so that might give us some ideas of what we want to do. We're still, of course, in the gathering of information stage, and we haven't yet tackled the potential problems associated with working with Cherry Creek Village and trying to do, maybe doing what we would like to do, but we need to address those issues, because there are people in the task force that are pretty sure that Cherry Creekers is going to say no to like putting solar panels on our roof, or doing something with our parking lot so we can do geothermal and stuff like that. So there's a lot of things we need to work out before we go to the congregation and say, hey, we'd like to have a campaign to try to get to net zero. And it also turns out, we've got the boiler, so that's what really costs, our carbon emissions, because of the natural gas we use for our boilers. If we tried to go to all electric heat, for example, replace our boilers, that would be, we know that would be really costly.
Hey, Larry, are you talking at all about heat pumps or heat exchange?
Yes, geothermal.
No, this is different from geothermal. These are physical things you put on your building. My husband knows a lot about them because we're exploring them for our house.
Okay.
It's not.
Right.
I mean, it's the same. I will send you the page from the Department of Energy that explains it. No,
okay. All right. No, that's good.
And actually, the state of Colorado is pretty interested in them, and a lot there. Denver, in particular, has some new building construction requirements for renewables and heat pumps. Some rebate programs, but I don't know the details of that either. Yeah, I don't know if,
Well, okay, yeah,
I don't know if
right.
if our structure, if our rooms are too big. But heat pumps are kind of where solar was 10 years ago. They're getting better,
Right.
and better and better.
Right.
And they are, like I said, my husband is very excited about them. I told him
Really? Okay.
I told him he should join the task force, but he's never in town.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Yeah. So
Bill has a question, it looks like.
Well, just
Okay.
a comment. So Larry, we're up in Boulder, First Congregational, UCC Church.
Hi.
Hi. We do have geothermal, which I've only been here 2 years, so it was put in way before that. And the rest of the energy, the greenness of it is through carbon offsets. Now, I'm not sure if we can call ourselves net zero or not. I mean, that's certainly the goal. So if we have people in our church who might be able to help you if you're interested in the carbon offsets. We've got a couple people whose business that is, and they advise the church about what was the best way to offset the rest of our energy usage.
So you're doing some of the offsets, though, is that correct?
Yeah, so the first part is the geothermal plant, and then
Right.
ideally the rest of the energy cost is offset by paying for wind farms or solar facilities.
Solar farms, yeah.
Yeah.
Right. So okay. I mean, that would be interesting. I think, I don't know if UU does any carbon offsets or not, but we'll certainly ask them. And then maybe what we should do is a field trip up to you guys. I don't know. To see or see the energy audit that you guys have, and how much did the geothermal save you, and how much do you offset every month? So
yeah, we've got one guy that I think could probably answer all your questions.
okay,
And it's
great.
That's
That's
not
great.
me.
Bill,
Yeah,
could you,
all right. So
Bill,
do
could you,
you know if you guys use do you guys use heat exchangers by any chance that
Well, to me,
that we were just talking about?
to me, the geothermal plant is a form of heat exchanger, right? Because what you're doing
It
is
is. You're right.
cooling or
Right.
warming the water. So
But the heat exchangers for homes, though, I just looking at them here, and what they don't use the heat of the earth. They don't drill down 200 feet. But they there's relatively small units that they attach to the side of their house to do this. But I don't know. We may have, it may not work too much very well with a big building like our church, but it's something that I will look into for sure.
so Bill, that would be great if you could forward the name of the person at your church. That would, if he doesn't mind, ask him first.
I will. His name
Okay.
is Bob Mathias, and I will write him.
Okay.
Thank you.
And,
Yep.
and Larry,
Thank you very much.
I'd say to you, I just think I really admire all that you're doing to carefully research this and try to make it possible for us. I think that probably net zero may be very ambitious for us, and even if we can get to cutting our carbon emissions in half by a certain date, it would be a good sort of milestone to keep us marching along rather than feeling like we have to shoot to this huge goal. I read somewhere that IPL is asking congregations to make a pledge to cut their carbon emissions in half by 2030. Maybe that's,
Okay.
a partway goal that we could reach.
Yeah,
in
and
the
there's a
meantime.
lot of ways that we can do. Yes, there's a lot of ways we can do that too, by energy conservation and better insulation and things like that. So, and
Good.
maybe just putting solar panels up on the roof, and maybe getting rid of our gas ranges in the kitchen and going to all electric. I mean, there's a lot of different things we can do.
Okay.
That could help. And maybe we could even, do a little carbon offset as well. So yeah, I think that 50%, depending on where we started, right? But
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that 50% by 2030 is probably a doable do. But we've got a lot of options we need to sort through first. But
Right.
I mean, I agree that net zero is the big audacious goal, right? The BHAG.
Yeah.
So, but that's the goal. And then, if we only get to 50% or whatever we get to, it's at least, that's what it is, right? And then maybe
Right.
20 years later, we'll finally get to net zero.
That's right. We don't stop there. It's just nice to have a shorter term goal that we can feel good about. So
Right. Yeah.
Thank you for taking the lead though and gathering all this information. I know it's not easy to pull all the pieces together and the people together. So, and thanks for keeping us.
Yeah. We're going to do at least one more, probably two more exploratory kinds of things before we strike out there more or less on our own. And that's when we'll come back to the Creation Justice Ministry and say, okay, now we need people to press the flesh and help, convince the congregation, so.
Okay.
Thank you, Larry. Thank you so much. And I have a bit of I have a question, which probably sounds naive. Do we have any members of the congregation who live in Cherry Hills Village?
I think we may have a couple.
I think so. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
For another conversation. Anyway.
Yeah, no, good idea.
Well, I mean, what we need is somebody on the Cherry Creek Village Council. That's what we need.
Yeah.
We need to convince one of their council members to join our church, and then we'd have somebody on the inside.
Well, it's interesting because I know that church administration for a decade or more has always been very clear that Cherry Hills Village is not, it has not gotten with the program about a lot of things, and that it's difficult.
Exactly.
But I don't know that we automatically make that assumption. But I did want to reference an article that was in the Denver Post this week, I think, about Greenwood Village effort to limit the solar arrays in people's yards and on their roofs. So there is a sort of mindset that is putting aesthetic over crisis.
Yeah, the nice thing about that, though, is that Colorado has a state law that an HOA can't do that, but I think probably a village could. I mean, a town council could, I think, yeah. But an HOA cannot stop you.
Right. Well, maybe we should incorporate as an HOA.
There you go.
I love it.
All right. Okay, well, I see if Bruce isn't here, I see that people have been emailing, volunteering. Hopefully he has the e-waste event, taken staffed. So
knowing Bruce, I think he does. I've volunteered for the early shift on October 2nd. So.
Okay. All right. Yeah. And then our next big task, I think, is to identify as a speaker for October, something similar to what we had from Environment Colorado. Which organization?
Can I back up just a little bit?
Sure.
I'm with the Christian Education CAM.
Yeah.
And we're looking for potential speakers in October. And so Rush is going to, he's going to talk with the racial equity team and with the immigration task force. And I said, well, I will talk with the Creation Justice Ministry because I have a meeting with them tomorrow. And so do we have anything that we would want to talk to during an adult forum after church in the next few weeks?
It occurs to me, and Nancy could probably speak to this, because she and Steve Barber have both participated actively with Together Colorado. And since Together Colorado is really a faith-based organization that encompasses things as well, like racial and social equity and immigration, right, and environmental issues, but perhaps, Nancy, do you think that there's someone from that group that could come and just talk about who they are and what they do and how we could, as members of a congregation, be more active with them?
So you're asking about a speaker that would talk about Together Colorado in general, not just climate justice.
Well,
That's
I would
the
say
only committee I'm involved with. I know Ruth is involved with their racial equity, but I know they have an umbrella organization. I could check to see. I would prefer. Yeah, I would prefer that I think if we're going to host it, it should be primarily about the climate crisis and related to creation, to our issues. But it is an umbrella organization, and so they could introduce themselves, or they could be introduced as a faith-based group that addresses a lot of these kinds of an array of issues that members of our congregation are interested in. But no, I would say primarily talking about our issues. So we're talking about two different events that are needing speakers. Our meeting next month, but also the adult forums. Are you talking about both of those?
Well, and perhaps we wouldn't even have to have them come to our meeting. What Larry and what Rush have been saying is nobody has signed up for October CE. And so
we only have one for the whole month, yeah. And that's on the 14th, I think. No, I'm sorry, 17th.
So it just occurred to me as we were here that maybe, I don't think we've ever had anyone from Together Colorado speak to our congregation, speak at a CE.
Yeah, my question would be, what attracts people to want to attend and participate in a CE? What would they be looking at hearing from Together Colorado that would attract people to want to come?
Well, honestly, I think that people, if they're paying attention, are realizing that so many of our problems are systemic and they're coming from so many directions, and to know that there is a faith organization that works on legislative and policy issues and coalition building, maybe people would be interested. I don't know.
Okay, it just would be helpful to have more detail of that before I approach Together Colorado. It's like, well, what do we want a speaker for? What information do we want just for them to explain the Together Colorado organization? It sounds
maybe it's not a good idea. I'm just, if it doesn't make sense to you, then maybe it doesn't make sense. I was just. I'm not saying
it doesn't make sense. I'm saying I have questions that I would want to have a better understanding in order to make sure that when I make a contact, I have some clarity about what kind of a request I'm asking for, and is that request in line with what the adult forum would really be looking for, rather than just getting a name on the docket so we have a speaker for one of the Sundays, but to have it be purposeful.
Would it be the same way that we approached Environment Colorado, in that, as a faith-based community, we are looking for ways to partner with other Colorado organizations that are doing the kind of work that we believe in. We'd like to know how we can participate or how we can be more effective in the area of advocacy. I don't know.
Well, one thing I'm learning with Together Colorado is it's an organizational, group. It's not as much of an advocacy, that it's more it's building relationships.
Okay.
Because what I'm learning is that unless you build relationships, you're not going to get people to advocate.
Okay.
So what do you, I'm not sure I know what you mean by that. Well, how do they build relationships?
Just the basic community building skills of reaching out, having conversation, looking at similarities.
Like within the group or outside of the group?
Well, they've got 250 faith communities, so they're reaching out to other faith communities to build those relationships, to look at common goals and similarities. I knew I had another request, and actually you, Jan, had sent me that one contact of that one Margot or somebody.
Yes, they were on the meeting today. Mm-hmm.
Okay. Oh, is that who it was? Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So I sent her the information on Benita and Janelle on education. So I think what I'll need to do is have more conversation with Benita to find out exactly what kind of speaker, or is it an educational, or is it a speaker group? I'm not sure, so I'll need to find that out first.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. And as you mentioned earlier, Jan, another possibility for a CE forum might be this community development investments. The fellow over at First Universalist, I think he had 3 guest speakers who were, came in on Zoom, but he does have the whole meeting videoed. That's how I watched it, was as a delay video. I don't know if we could pull it together by October, but certainly down the line.
Would a video recording be an option to use for an adult forum? Because it was an awesome presentation. And to redo it when it's already on videotape, could the adult forum just use a recording?
Maybe so. I don't know. Larry, what do you think?
Perhaps. Well, I think it might be able to do that. Yes. It'd be kind of like watching a movie in a way, but
Yeah. So there wouldn't be a dialogue or an opportunity for questions.
Right.
Unless we could get this Tom Booth to come and be there before and after. It was kind of a long presentation, Nancy, I remember it was over an hour.
Yeah. And there was a lot of questions, and maybe it could just be the presentation.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I think the title of it was Walking Away from Wall Street.
Yeah.
And it might have some challenges around the way that First Plymouth invests uses its investment money, because it really did challenge First Universalist people too.
Yeah.
But I think Tom's really dedicated to advocating for so many of these topics that it wouldn't surprise me that he would be receptive to maybe being available during that adult forum for conversation.
Okay. Well, my sense is that we may not be ready to jump right in October, but we've got a couple of ideas that maybe we can work on for November or after the first of the year. Another one that came up a year or so ago is these new green burials. There's now one that's water-based apparently, and there's another one that's compost-based. So I don't know, it's another topic that might be.
I think that would really appeal to people.
Yeah.
Yeah. I wonder if that's something we could pull off in a month.
I'll do a little looking and see if I can find more about it. But
Article in the Denver Post not so long ago.
yeah, that was the one that was water-based. Okay, well, let's leave that one on hold for now, but do we want another speaker for October? I guess what we had, let's see, was Conservation Colorado one, Jen, that you think we might want to attach to, or was he?
Yeah, I haven't been in touch with him since the spring. I mean, they reached out to us.
Okay.
And I haven't been in touch with him. I don't really know. I mean, on some level, I think it would be fairly similar to, there's also Denver 350 or Colorado 350, who I think actually is doing some of the best. And what's the youth one? Rising, something rising.
Yeah.
Sunset Rising.
Pardon me?
Isn't it Sunset Rising or something like that? Sun Rising, something like that.
It's something rising. I'm not sure it's sunset, but yeah, I wonder if that is worth looking into. I mean, Denver 350 has a very organized communications and lobby effort for legislation at the Capitol. If that's part of what we're trying to educate ourselves for through this process this fall.
Okay. Is there a contact at Denver 350 or?
I can reach out. I can make that contact.
Okay.
I was trying to go to some of their meetings, but they were on Tuesday nights. Tuesday nights. So I think I skipped one Whole Earth meeting and went to one, but they tended to be the same, second or third Tuesdays, whatever.
Okay. Okay.
I don't know. Somehow I got on Bonita's email list again, and so received a very detailed email from her this week, or maybe the end of last week, and with Together Colorado. And it sounds like they have a pretty organized climate policy group, and she referenced some names, and maybe that's the group that you attend and you know some of these names. Did you get an email from Bonita this week?
Yes.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So it doesn't, okay, all right.
She did include the e-waste marketing flyer to the to all the people that she sends the email to on the minutes from last week's meeting.
Oh, that was nice.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Well, let's see if we can get information on both Denver 350 and Together Colorado, because we're hopeful to have a speaker for each of the next, few months. So maybe we could have one month and one the next. Let's. All right. Let's see. Well, the only other thing on the agenda was just, follow up for reaching out to new members and sharing leadership roles. Big thank you to Jan. She volunteered to take the minutes this week to give me a break. So it would be wonderful to have somebody else take a turn.
As good as Pam's.
Well, they'll at least document. be good if we could rotate that job. That would be helpful. And also helpful for someone to think about doing some co-leadership. Jen and I would like to just step out of the leadership role for a little bit. We'll definitely still be active on Creation Justice Ministry, but maybe one of us could partner with somebody new for the next year, and then again, cycle just some new ideas, new ways of doing things. We're passionate about Creation Justice Ministry, but as you all know, you've all been in leadership roles yourself. It's just helpful to take a break and then come back to it. So I think that's it for today, unless anybody else has anything else.
Pam, could you remind me of the next meeting date? Oh, I should know that. Tuesday.
Yeah. It'll be October 12th at 1 o'clock. And I guess I should just check in with those of you here. Are we still comfortable with Tuesday afternoons at 1?
Yes.
Okay.
Me.
And I think Zoom seems to be accessible right now. Until we have a better hybrid approach, I think we need to just respect what the people who are participating would like to do.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea.
Agree.
Okay. And I'll just ask you to keep your eyes open for something in the update this week. The Highline Canal Conservancy has a tree planting initiative in the month of October. Every Saturday in October, they're gathering groups to plant trees. And so I'm going to try to organize a First Plymouth group to plant trees on October 23rd. It will be an afternoon from 1 to 4, and it will be in the University Hills area. So hopefully that will be another way we can just love the land and continue to do things that bring us together in that kind of effort.
Okay, so I will tell the adult forum group that Creation Justice won't have a CE, an adult forum meeting after church in October. But can I tell them that we'll consider maybe putting our CAM forward in November or December?
Yes, I think so.
Sure, we'll work on it.
Okay, all right. So I'll just tell them that we're working on the next 2 months and seeing if we can come up with a topic and a date, a Sunday. Okay, I'll do that.
Thanks, Larry. Thanks for being persistent and tuning in today. We really value your participation.
Well, I was my game plan was to get there 15 minutes early. I'm glad I started 15 minutes early. Oh man, I'll get this figured out. I have to. If maybe the only way to do it is buy a new computer. I don't know.
Oh.
But anyway.
Okay.
Okay.
All right.
All right.
Thanks,
See you next
everybody.
time.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.